You may have played poker, but playing poker in Texas is a different animal. This is the Texas Poker Podcast with Tyler and Clint.
Hello, this is the Texas Poker Podcast. I'm Tyler. This is Clint.
What's up, y'all?
And we are back with episode 31.
Man, Tyler, you've really been cranking out the sessions just a ton lately, haven't you?
Yeah, I've been making up for. I've been playing enough for both of us, I guess.
I mean, bigger stakes, bigger buy-ins. I mean, I don't know. The poker career going on. I mean, you were just skyrocketing on this volume here.
Well, I mean, so like I was telling you, I had this. I'll just get right into it. Might as well, since we have a lot of sessions to cover. But I played this session earlier last week, where I just all my hands held. It was the strangest thing. I didn't do anything special. I didn't make any hero calls, hero folds, big bluffs. I just flopped sets on a flush draw board, and someone would just jam with all the money when I have, almost the nuts.
Well, I think, we've talked about this, and, I've been profitable for a decent amount of time, and, before that, there was no bluffs. There was no really any big thing I had to my game. But if you just play correct and your hands hold, those have, I think, always been my biggest sessions, actually.
But this one was even different. I mean, the deck hit me in the face. I mean, it just... Whoever was in that chair or was playing, getting the cards I was getting and hitting those flops was just going to win.
I mean, that's always a great feeling. I mean, because you see it, usually you're sitting there watching someone else get hit in the deck with a face. And, I mean, hit in the face with the deck.
Yeah.
It's nice to kind of be that guy every once in a while.
Yeah, because, remember I sent you a picture of the stack, and I was like, dude, look, I have all these yellows. And you were like, well, you haven't sent me any hands. I was like, there's really nothing to talk about this session. I mean, the only interesting spot I had is I 5-bet with queens, and the guy with ace-king called, and they held.
I mean, that's kind of interesting. I mean, a 5-bet with queens is pretty... I mean, there's no time when I get 4-bet with queens where I'm like, hell yeah. I mean, I always feel like you're looking at aces or kings. Because, I mean, especially now we're playing different stakes, so people play differently at different stakes. But a 4-bet in my games, I mean, seems like it's aces and kings just damn near every time.
Well, this was a 1-3 game, and I was worried about aces and kings.
I can imagine. Yeah, it seems like you're real worried when you're like, right over the top.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was one of those ones where it's like kind of the stack sizes. Once he put in the 4-bet, it was
either fold or 5-bet. I mean, you didn't really have... If you call, I guess your stack is just committed anyways, right?
Exactly. So, I mean, I say I put the 5-bet in, which I did, but it doesn't sound like it sounds.
It was just going all in.
The rest of it. I mean, once I put in the 3-bet and he re-raises me and he only has a few $100 behind after putting in a gigantic 4-bet.
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is at that point. So, I mean, but I just flopped so many sets and all these people, I mean, actually it was just one guy he just kept getting just bare flush draws and just ripping it in.
Wow. I mean, what's nice is, I can see a lot of people doing that, but it's nice for them to actually miss here and there. I mean, I don't know, like lately when someone gets it all in on a flush draw, I mean, it's probably coming spade if they need spades. I mean, just the best possible runouts. So it's nice to hold against all of that.
I mean, it was a gigantic win too. I mean, I bought him for $1,000. I bought $200 in time, and they matched it, so that was nice. But and I ended up profiting $3,300.
Oh God, what a nice session.
I mean, just like I said, didn't do anything special or whatever. So But I mean, that'll happen sometimes. Like you said, sometimes you flop a set and hit a flush, and that's just a gigantic session for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I say, making those big hands and getting paid off on them. Just doing that will really create a pretty damn big session.
But okay, so here's where things kind of change, though.
Oh God.
So the next session, I show up and I'm playing with a lot of the same people. And I put in a 3. So, okay. So basically what happened was, let's see. I have 8 deuce off on the button.
8 deuce off on the button.
Yes.
This is going to go somewhere I don't like. I can already tell.
So someone opened to like 15. There was 3 callers. So I was thinking, well, this would be a great squeeze spot. Right?
I mean, if you don't have 8 deuce, I mean, I completely disagree here.
All right, so I'll continue like you didn't say that. So I go ahead and squeeze and make it 65. Okay. I get 1 caller, the original pre-flop better. Right? The flop comes king 10-6. I bet 125. He folds. I show 8 deuce. We all have a good laugh, right?
I mean, I do like the play. Like, I think, I don't agree with like the entire play, but I do think that is one fun highlight play, though.
Yeah. So the very next hand, I get ace king. The same guy opens. Everyone calls. I squeeze again to 65. This time, 2 guys call. The original raiser and someone else who's just darn sick of it.
I can see that.
The flop comes ace 8-9. I bet 125. I told them just like last time. They both call. The turn is a 3, but there's a flush draw out there. It flopped a flush draw. It was ace 8-9, 2 diamonds and a heart. So there are some straight draw possibilities, but there's definite flush draw possibilities.
Okay.
So I was, the 125 was more just as a chuckle as last hand. That's what I bet.
Right.
So this is where I bet like a real bet. So then I bet 300 and they both fold.
Very nice. I mean, it's super awesome to do that 8 deuce squeeze play right then and there. And then to get ace king right back. Because, I mean, everybody, obviously, the 8 deuce is still fresh on everybody's mind. I mean, don't get me wrong, it would still be very helpful, even if it was like a orbit or 2 later. Everybody's still going to be thinking about that 8 deuce. But, I mean, the very next hand looks like you're just screwing with people.
And the strangest thing happened. People just started playing crazily. Just everyone just betting. Just, I mean, no one believing anything I did. No, I mean, just over and over again, right? So I get pocket kings. And a player who was there for the 8 deuce hand, I raise with the pocket kings. And he just automatically jams on me, not believing any of it. And I just call, and he says that he only has an ace. That's it. And just hold for like...
How much was a jam for?
Like $600.
Good God.
Yeah, I told you just not having any of it.
I mean, here's the question. I'm sure this is where you're going with it, is playing like crazy like that 8 deuce hand. Like even... saying it's a negative EV play in the long run, the fact that you're showing it down and getting all of this action before doesn't make it profitable in the long run. Right?
That's kind of, I mean, I've been testing it out and it's been just working, just making money hand over fist right now.
Well, and me and you talked about it and like, okay, how unprofitable is it? Because, okay, let's say ace king, ace queen versus even 8 deuce offsuit. You're not that heavy of a favorite. I mean, 8 deuce is going to win 30% of the time. Yeah. Now, that being said, there's obviously implied odds and stuff like that where it really, hurts and all that. But, the fact is you are going to win some of the time, and the time where you lose, people see you. I mean, I'm sure you're still showing that down, and folding. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like creating that image is. But here was my other point: was how far do you go in creating that image? Because like I said, once you show down 8 deuce, it doesn't work if you show it down and then fold for 2 orbits, right?
Not at all. Correct. Does not work at all.
So you kind of have to be cultivating that image the entire time. And the big question is how far do you go to cultivate that image where you're getting this much action?
I mean, it's definitely cost me money before. I mean, I'm sure you can imagine.
So it's a good question because obviously this has been pretty profitable doing this, but the question is how much action do you have to give to cultivate the image, and how much action are you getting because of it?
That's kind of the fine balance that I was kind of flirting with right now. I mean, yeah, and it makes you play certain hands differently because when you start bluffing people don't tend to like that. You get a ton of action.
The one thing that's really thrown me as far as you bluffing, because I've definitely seen how bluffing can be profitable. One thing that's thrown me is, okay, you show down a lot of bluffs, and it creates a lot more action for you, right?
Correct.
I didn't like this, because I was like, well, okay, once you show down these bluffs, this means it kind of hamstrings you. Because, I mean, you can't be showing down bluffs and just keep bluffing people, because they're going to be like, okay, he's capable of bluffing. You're going to get lighter calls. Thing is, you've done this for multiple sessions where you've shown down the bluffs, continue to do it, and it's just kept working over and over again.
Yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, people just seem to just fall apart and just lose their mind. It's the strangest thing. But then I have another interesting kind of hand. So I had 2 gigantic sessions playing like that. I profited like 1,200 and 2,200 playing like that.
Now, here's a question. Do you think it's working, or do you think... 2 sessions is not that many. Do you think it's really working, or do you think you're just right on the right side of variance right now?
Sure, it's the right side of variance. I'm sure there's a reason why people don't play like that. Right?
I definitely feel like it could be a combination of the two, but I do feel like both play into it, correct?
Definitely. And... well, I guess we're not there yet, but my latest session, I kind of dialed it back quite a bit. But we'll talk about that whenever we get to that session. Because the session we're going to talk about next, though, took a pretty big hit. And have no one to blame but myself for this one. I tried hero calling down. So I saw some guy play a hand, and he put a nice bluff in, right?
Okay.
And my problem is once I see that you're capable of bluffing, I'm going to lean towards hero calling more. Just in general.
So just the way you're exploiting other people, you're
100%.
kind of getting exploited the same way, right?
But it works.
But you have to a degree. Once you know someone is capable of bluffing, well, then even if it's not a huge chance on this hand, there's always that little bit of a chance.
And if you're on the fence, that's what normally will lead me to it.
Right.
If that player is capable of bluffing or not. If they're not capable of bluffing, normally I'll just fold. But once I see it, that'll normally lean me towards calling. So, but this hand, I end up with, I'm going to give you the briefest of details on it because it was awful.
Oh, God.
I ended up with an underpair when I check raised as a bluff and got called. And then the front door flush missed and he ripped it in. Donk ripped it.
An underpair to the flop?
Yeah.
God, yeah. Don't get me wrong. We've all had crazy punts like this before.
Yeah.
So, it is what it is. But
oh, yeah. Not saying it
I'd
was...
be like, well, not something I do. But, at this point, once you do the punt, it's not something you should have done.
100%. Can confirm. Don't do this. Because I hero called thinking, I was like, there's some weird straights that missed, and then the obvious flush draw missed. And I was like, he raised pre-flop and then checked, which really makes me think he might just have ace king here or two high cards. And it was all low, unconnected. Two were connected, but they missed. The straights missed, and nothing to me made sense for him to have as a pre-flop raiser that would coordinate with this board other than a missed flush draw or an overpair.
He checked the flop?
Yeah. Or no, sorry. He bet, but he had made it 30 pre-flop and bet 15 into two of us. And then the other guy called. So I raised, thinking to take it down right there.
Ooh. You raised on the flop and he called the raise?
Yeah. Oh yeah, like I said, we're skimming this. So yeah, say you're dragging your feet through this hand. No, so basically what happened was I called, he had aces. Moral of the story. It all checks out. It all makes sense. It was horrible.
Well, we've all shown up with something crazy like that at some point.
But what was I gonna say? Would have looked great if he had ace king.
Yeah, it's. But okay. Well, I'm not gonna say anything that you don't already know. I'm like, you can never have ace king here.
Yeah. So, but here's the thing that really ruined me was. Once I saw him with that bluff, it was early when I just switched tables. But then after that, I realized I had tried to hero call the wrong person. He was a very tight player. I 3-bet him with ace queen. He folded ace king face up.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
If this player's calling, a 3-bet flop.
Yeah.
Or, well, I guess not a 3-bet, but a raise on the flop.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's...
I knew I just made a gigantic mistake. Not the fact that I lost all my chips, but the fact that after I saw him play, that was just awful.
The way we play ace king, I tell you what, nothing throws... me going crazy with ace king, I tell you what, players at the 1-3 level do not understand it. I see so many limps with ace king, it's ridiculous.
One of the dealers at the 5-5 game was saying, people go crazy with ace king, and he was like, that to me is not a $700, $500 hand. That to me is like a $50 hand or something.
Because it's not even a pair. That's what I hear all the time.
I told him I will feel free to rip all this in with ace king in front of me.
Oh God, how much did you have there?
Probably $5K. But
okay. Now I'm on the dealer side. But that's I tell you what, that is a huge difference on how me as far as pre-flop, that is one of the biggest differences I see me and you versus some of the other players. They play that so cautiously.
Jonathan Little just said it best. Just rip that.
Well, me and
maybe
you...
not a direct quote, but
Jonathan Little's going to hear this podcast and he directly email us. But me and you talked about it, and I think it's also dependent on the blind levels. I don't feel like you should be trying to get it all in for 800 blinds, but
I'm definitely raising.
Well, okay, yeah, definitely raising, but
and if they raise, I'm re-raising. And at that point, I'm not folding. Yeah. So you can play from there.
So we're going to go ahead and say one of us is getting it all in, no matter what.
Basically. That's just the nature of playing it that way, I guess.
I guess if you're telling me it is. I feel like there's some gray area somewhere, but you're not going to let there be gray area, it sounds like.
Possibly. Sure, sometimes they're going to show up with aces and kings, but just it's horrible when that happens.
It does sound horrible when that happens. Very horrible. I agree for the most part. I feel like if the stacks are big enough in the blind levels, I'm not if we're less than 200 times the blind, I'm probably, and they 3-bet me, we're probably getting it all in.
Yeah, I agree.
But like I say, it's really different if we're 600 to 700 times the blind. If they 3-bet me, I might call and see a flop and see what develops.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it really is all just dependent on how many blinds and the player type as well.
That's true. I mean, that was one thing we talked about earlier is you've been playing higher stakes where people are capable of making moves that just aren't being made at 1-3. So at 1-3, if it's a 3-bet, a lot of times you are going to be running up, at the very least, up against a big monster hand. So...
Oh, I mean, at 1-3 in the 4-bet, you're only seeing aces and kings.
That's kind of my thinking. I mean, this is like when we were in Vegas. It was just like that nittier deal. I mean, it was like every single time it was something like that.
Absolutely. And I had one other interesting hand before we get on to your session. I had one hand where I was playing like a maniac the whole time, bluffing and bluffing and bluffing. I actually even lost a buy-in. That was great.
Sounds fun.
So then I add on for a lot. And I had like 10-7 in a raised pot, 10-7 suited. At least we'll say it was suited. And I flopped a gut shot, and the guy bet relatively big. But I was like, well, you don't play 10-7 suited to flop a gut shot and fold. You at least stick around for a little bit.
I mean...
Calm down.
Yeah.
Clint's like, I don't play 10-7
Tyler's
suited.
like, I see Clint's face getting red here. This isn't going to be good.
So I'm going to move on. So then on the turn, I turn double gutted.
Okay.
And he bets very sizable. But now at this point, you're never folding double gutted for pot.
I mean, I don't know. It's very dependent. I mean, he has to have enough implied odds. I mean, okay, like, regardless of being double gutted or not, I mean, you have basically 8 outs. So you're only going to win this around 15% of the time. And then on top of that, so you have to definitely have a ton of implied odds. And I mean, you have to think on the fact that you might not be getting paid off, even enough. I mean, it doesn't mean just because you are both 5,000 deep that you hit your straight and you rip it in and he just, automatically calls with whatever he has.
I'll spoil it for you. I hit my straight. I check raise him to 700 and he called.
I mean... Okay. Very nice. I think this might be the most results-oriented we could be, right?
It'd be like the definition if you were looking it up. But it was
Tyler's
great.
like, therefore, it was a correct play.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, that's results-oriented. Tyler's like, the results are you're gonna make $700 extra every time.
Well, I mean, that was like a gigantic overbet, too. Because I checked over second nuts to him, and he bet like 200.
Well, if you're going to make this play, which I'm not saying... This is one of those do not do what you see on TV type deals. And not saying I agree with making this play, but if you are going to make this play, you 100% are going to overbet this.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're not, you should be folding every time.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's what I did. I raised way... I don't even know how... It was a gigantic raise, and I think he made it 200, which was a very big river bet. So...
Yeah, that's... What did he end up having?
Nothing, just really angry. He didn't show.
Oh, okay. So...
if you can believe it, he didn't see the straight coming.
Yeah, I think that's why you have to overbet so much is... Because your straight makes no sense here. So, I mean, I think you're going to get a lot of non-believers here. Especially if he's played with you ever before.
Well, and I had bluffed a ton of the time. And I kept bluffing him in particular and showing it.
I mean, and this, I think, comes into play, too. Is, like, you can justify this quite a bit more than me. Because there's just more implied odds. Because people know that you could show up with nothing here. Whereas... Like I say, I am going to have it 90% of the time. I mean, you might have it 75.
60, yeah.
And Tyler was like, 10.
Yeah. No, yeah, probably 70% of the time is probably about right.
So Tyler's like, on the times I have it, I just check down because what fun is there in that?
Yeah. But I heard you played I guess you had a session too, though. I mean, I was playing a ton of sessions, but I guess you went in there and battled one day.
Yeah, last Thursday I went and played, which has become kind of my night where I usually go. It was one of those. It was a real enjoyable session. It was a real enjoyable table. A lot of rec play at the table, and of course, I still lost.
Like those were the toughest guys.
Yeah. But I mean, it was one of those that you're just gonna run bad sometimes. The defining hand of the session. There were two defining hands. I have Ace Deuce. It's limp to me, like a late position. I think it was Ace Deuce suited. Maybe.
It better have been.
I hope so.
I mean, even I'm not playing offsuit low or any offsuit aces besides a 10.
Let's how about we chill out and Deuce 8 off.
But not Ace Deuce off or Ace 8 off on folding. That's my limit. Because for me, I'm sorry to cut off your story here, but those offsuit aces just have the worst implied odds, reverse implied odds. Where if you flop two aces, and I mean, they're more than I have just had horrible experiences. I just will never just don't play those hands, and except for from like button versus blinds or something.
Well, it's one of those. If you have Ace Deuce and you flop an ace, you definitely are not looking to get stacks in with it. I mean, you're, yeah, no, I definitely agree. Ace Deuce. I mean, Ace Deuce suited, like you say, because everybody plays suited cards. I mean, has great implied odds. Ace Deuce off probably is just a fold.
So for this story, you had Ace Deuce suited. Go ahead.
Which more than likely I probably did. I mean,
yeah, I'm sure.
So the flop comes Ace Deuce 6. No flush draws, no anything. I mean, this board is dry as shit. So I usually like to go ahead and fast play, but I'm like, well, there's nothing going on here. Let me see what happens. I just check. Someone obliges, like, it's a tiny pot because it was limped. So he bets like $6. There's one more caller, and then I call. I don't feel the need to raise. I'm scared of almost nothing here.
Yeah, definitely.
The turn is what I think is a very good card for me. It's a king.
I was going to say, though, you're scared of nothing, but the chances of him having a big ace is very low, right? Since it was a limp pot. So I'm kind of worried you might not get any action here.
Well, kind of my thought, too.
Right. Yeah. Because you're scared of nothing, but also you're kind of scared that no one has... You're going to bet one time and everyone's going to fold is what I'm kind of thinking.
Yeah, I have the board pretty much covered.
Exactly.
So the king I love because, one, people can hit a king. Mm-hmm. Ace king, considering it's a limp pot, is unlikely. So, I mean, I'd definitely rather it be a king than like a 10, 9, or something like that. So I love this card. I check it again. He obliges with another bet of 15 and another call. And I'm like, well, this is the time to go ahead and bump this pot up. Yep. I make it, I think, $60. It might have been. It was between 50 and 60.
Both sound good, and it's definitely the time to raise.
He calls and the other player folds, which I'm loving. The river was kind of a nothing river. I think it did bring some weird straights. It might have been like a jack or something like that. But nothing that would really make sense here. I bet like 90, like 80, 90, something like that. And gives me something that I love. He's like, I guess I call. I'm like, oh, well, this is great. I turn over ace deuce, and he turns over ace 6 for another flop 2 pair that's better.
You are lucky you didn't lose more in that hand.
Oh, I don't know how he just doesn't rip it. I mean, like, this should be just a standard rip on the turn against me.
Yeah, I don't know how deep he was, but it sounds like it, yeah.
I mean, he got almost all the 2 pairs that are better. I mean, it was, definitely a wreck-type player that was just more scared of losing. Because, yeah, I should have lost. I should have been stacked completely on this hand.
Yeah, I was saying, because when we text, I didn't realize quite how the hand went. I think I was playing. When you text me the hand, I just saw 2-pair versus 2-pair, and I was like, oh, God, that's... Anytime you have a worse 2-pair versus someone else, I mean, it's just not your night for sure, but...
Yeah, because I don't think he can ever have ace-king. I don't think he can ever have ace-jack. He's more likely to have, like, king-jack or something like that, or, just a lot of rec players overplay top pair. Obviously not this guy. He barely called 2-pair. But I just don't... with our stack sizes, I'm never getting away from this hand.
Yeah, like I said, lucky you didn't lose more.
So, I'm in for, later. This is, the real defining hand that really gets me. It's a high-low hand, which probably not... I know you don't play at all high-low, and probably don't, since high-low is very much a very not much played in Texas game. Probably nobody that's listening, but it's big for the session. So I have ace deuce 4-5, which is basically a nut low hand. I mean, because any low, basically it makes you a ton of nut lows. So it is just an amazing high-low hand. Supposedly. I raise it to 20. That's a pot. So I get called 2 ways. The flop comes deuce, deuce, 8. So I've got trip deuces with an ace. So checks to me. I bet pot. And then someone goes pot over me to make it like 250.
I imagine is pretty much committing your stack, right?
Yeah, exactly. I've got trip deuces. The only things that beat me are pocket 8s and deuce 8. I mean, obviously there's 2 deuces out there. I've got a deuce. I mean, he very well could just have king. I mean, this could be ace 3. It could be king deuce or something like that. I don't think I can fold. I still have the nut low. I have the close to nut low draw, and I have trips with the best kicker. I just rip it all in. It's only like $90 more or something.
Yeah, it sounds standard.
He calls. He's like, "Do you have pocket 8s?" I'm like, "No," which is great to hear because that means he doesn't. And then he flips over deuce 8 for the flop boat.
God.
We run it. No improvement. Dude, no low comes whatsoever. And I get just murdered. I had I had him covered, so I had like $30 after that. It was just a massacre, a bloodbath.
God, that sounds awful.
Wasn't thrilled at the time, It was a guy I know real well. So I mean, if somebody's gonna beat me out of it, glad it was him. But it was lately in Omaha hands, this dude is just crushing me. I mean, if he's on a draw, he's getting there, and if I'm on a draw, he's just so safe. So, I mean, ready for this to turn around at any point in time.
Say, you're glad it was him, but we both wish it was me. But
yeah, at least I know I wish it was me.
So then, I was not planning on playing poker for this next session. I'd already decided I wasn't going to play poker. And then I end up going... I see the 5-5 game is running, so I decided to go, right? I was like, oh, it's actually going, so I should maybe go try to test my luck, as they would say,
I know you've been wanting to do more and more 5-5, so I'm glad to see that they are actually getting it together and getting some 5-5 sessions out there.
So I show up, and I actually put my name on the list on Poker Atlas, which I almost never do since I live right down the street.
Shocking, because I do it every time. I don't know why you wouldn't take advantage of that.
I don't know. I just like standing around in the room. But, what's it called? So I show up, and when I get there, the list is 10 people deep, and I'm number 2. So after I put my name on the list, just a ton of people came in.
Oh, wow.
So I actually... Oh, yeah. So then I end up playing 1-3 while I'm waiting for the 5-5. I end up putting some guy on a bluff. I was right, but he rivered trips. That wasn't great. And
that's
then
hurtful.
I had another one where I flopped a set versus an all-in player. Like, I flopped a set. He went all in. I was heads up with another guy. I got the other guy to fold. He set over set me. That was a bummer.
Set over sets always are.
Yeah, but I mean, at least it was against that guy who was short stacked.
That's true. If that's going to happen, that's super helpful that guy was short stacked.
Yeah, so I got set over set there. I think he actually turned set over set on me, actually, which was even worse. But, yeah, I mean, that'll happen, I guess. So then I get to go to the 5-5 game. And now I don't even have 1,000 in front of me. So I'm like, wow, I for sure need to add on another 1,000. Seems reasonable, right? The first hand I end up playing, I had like clubs and it came 4 spades. And I put a nice bluff in and everyone folded and I got to show and I got to have a good laugh.
God, that's a tough bluff to do when there's 4 spades out there. I mean, that is not what I would have thought is a bluffing board. I mean, how many players were in that hand?
Maybe 3.
Including you?
Yeah.
Mike, okay, that's not the worst, but still ballsy bluff there.
Yeah, might as well. So then like the next hand, this guy's, I don't know if he's slightly annoyed or what, but he's like, I'm going to bet 50 in the dark. I have ace 10, so I just limp the straddle knowing the 50's coming. Okay. 3 other people limp it. He makes it 50. We all call for 200 in the pot. Yeah. Okay. So
is it ace 10 suited?
No, remember I play ace 10 offsuit.
Okay, I got you.
But I mean, if he's putting 50 in the dark, I mean, I feel like ace 10 offsuit is fine.
Okay, yeah, I agree. That's fine.
The flop comes 3, 4, 5, rainbow. Everyone checks. The turn is a 6. It checks to me. I bet 275. Everyone folds. I turn over ace 10. Everyone's pissed.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. But I mean, I kind of like this. Here because it's 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yep.
I mean, if somebody doesn't have a 7 here, how do they call?
They don't, and everyone was mad.
Yeah, I actually do like this bluff here a lot too. I mean, I don't. 275 was that was over a pot sized bet.
Yeah.
And I mean, you only have to win this. You don't have to win this that often to make that profitable. I like this move. I don't love all your bluffs, but this one I do like a lot.
So not right after, maybe a few hands later, that guy was pretty upset who had put the money in and everything. And I guess he had not been running the best and seemed to be enjoying the drink situation at the bar and stuff, right?
That's great.
And he was saying something about how he's more country than anyone. I don't know. There was a lot going on, really. And how he had lost $12,000 and he's not going to cry. I told him, if I lose $12,000, I will cry at the table.
Tyler's like, I will kick this chair out and throw a tantrum right on the goddamn floor.
Yeah, no, not on the floor, on the table. So I get pocket aces now, and I'm like, whew, this is going to be great, right? And I'm actually in the big blind, yes. The original guy who bet in the dark bets like, what did he make? He made it like 25. Okay. He gets 3-bet to like 90 maybe. Mm-hmm. Then I come in with the 4-bet to 275.
Oh, God.
Folds around to him. He calls. The original 3-better folds. Not the original. Well, I guess he is the original 3-better. But so it's heads up between me and the guy who raised originally.
Okay.
The flop comes. Let me see. Where is it? 5-5-4. I'm out of position because I was in the big blind. I check it over to him. He rips it all in. I call. Turn is a 6. River's a brick. I hold.
Wonder what he ripped it. Did you see what he ripped it all in with?
I didn't, but someone else did. They said that he had 3-4. So he turned open-ended. But the money went in on the flop.
Wait, 5-5. So the flop was 5-5-6?
Yeah.
So he flopped open-ended. I mean, I guess it makes sense. I mean, if you're going to play 3-4, I don't know how the hell you're folding that flop. I mean, I'm very I mean, it throws me that someone is calling a $90 bet with 3-4, but, you know.
No, not a $90 bet.
Oh, that 90 was the 3 bet. You did 275?
Yeah.
God damn, man.
It's like, where is this game at?
No kidding. I mean, the stuff you tell me on a daily basis, I just don't. I never seem to get used to.
Yeah, so that was great for me, and that was like almost a $2,000 all in, something like that, or $1,500, $1,600, something like that. It was a lot.
Sounds like a lot.
Yeah. Then I get like pocket kings versus some guy. He 3-bets me, but like how the stacks were, I was like, this is gonna be an awkward. I just ripped it all in. He called. I didn't know at the time. He had ace queen. Flop came all low cards. Flop came queen high. Turn with an ace. I'm like, am I good? And I was like, he's not smiling yet because like I showed my hand over. I always just turn my hand over when I go all in.
Right.
River, king. Dealer said he had ace queen because he saw it.
You are dirty as hell, man. You should be ashamed of yourself.
I had the best hand.
You did have the best hand, but God almighty, what a river.
Yeah. And then toward the end of the session, an interesting spot happened, which I kind of want to get your take on.
Okay.
So I then had some hands not go my way. Had a ton of bluffs that didn't go my way. Because if you can believe it, people don't believe you much after you start pulling those moves a bunch.
One of the things, yeah, that would concern me.
So I have pocket jacks. I'm in the big blind again, or the small blind. One of the blinds.
Okay.
This guy rips it all in. It was like a bet, but a small bet. But this guy rips it in for 375. Another guy calls a 375. So I call it 375. The flop whereas now me and the other guy who are not...
Did you consider folding here?
No. Me and the other guy who are still in the hand are about minimum 2,500 effective after the call.
Okay.
The flop comes Jack 9-3 rainbow.
Oh my God. What a dream come true.
And against this specific player, I played with him all night. So my plan was to let him bet. So I check it over to him. He checks it back. The turn is another low card, but there's almost nothing out there that would call a $375 bet.
Right.
So I check it back to him, letting him... Hopefully he's going to take a stab at it.
Okay.
He doesn't. The river is a 9, giving me top boat.
Wow.
So I'm like, all right, well, now I can't check. I mean, maybe he has ace king, but I'm hoping he has a pocket pair, a big pocket pair, from 10s.
Well, not to mention you've checked every street. So I mean, and this is a $1,000 pot. He's gonna call something. If he's even ace high is gonna call something here.
Well, so when I went to reach for chips, I start grabbing my chips to kind of size up how much I wanted to bet. Mm-hmm. So my hands are on my chips, and I'm kind of looking at them, getting ready to place them down. The guy who's all in turns over his hand and says, "It doesn't matter what you do, I'm gonna win." he rivered quads. So then I still go to bet, and he goes, because even the guy was acting like he was about to call.
Right.
I mean, because I was put money, and then he was still reaching for calling chips.
Mm-hmm.
But then I just bet a very small amount, hoping to get any money at this point.
Right.
And then he goes, why would you even bet? You can't even win any of that now. And then the other guy just folded.
I mean, I don't know. This is just retarded jackass. I just don't get how in the world. I mean, all you have to do, you've already won. All you have to do is just sit there and do nothing. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, stuff like this just pisses me off because somebody just concerned with their own deal. They're not playing at this point in the hand anymore. They don't need to be showing their cards. They don't need to be doing until the hand is over. I mean, I know you can't, but it seems like they should just take money out of his stack and give it to you. I mean, give it to you because I mean, if he's going to cost everybody money because he just can't contain himself, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the worst part about cash, or one, not the worst part, but it's kind of dramatic. It's one of the downsides is there's no punishment for someone, because we've had situations where this has happened before.
Right.
And we've had situations where players turn their hand over while they're still in the hand and all sorts of stuff. There's no repercussions for this, though.
Yeah, I mean, because, I mean, what do you do? I mean, the dealer can say something, or the floor
But of course,
can
the dealer doesn't say anything, and of course,
which is utterly ridiculous. I mean, if the dealer is not saying something here, then I don't know why they're even a dealer. Because I mean, this is something that's costing people money. That, you know, it's. But here's the other thing: is okay, he says something, or the floor says something. You know, they're not ejecting the player off the table. So, I mean, at the end of the day, does it even matter?
it doesn't seem like it does.
I just can't stand this. Like, we've seen this so many times, but I don't know. Eventually, this person's going to flip over their hand at the wrong time where it hurts them, and then they're going to cry about it. Because I've seen this happen 1,000 times before. And I don't know. I mean, like you say, there's not much that can be done about it, but God almighty, it pisses me off that people can do this to other people.
I mean, when I left there, I can't even remember a time I was more mad than that. I mean, not the fact that he hit the one-outer. That I don't really care about. That's going to happen.
Right.
That doesn't matter. Not the fact that I lost the hand. That doesn't really matter either. The fact that someone was so selfish to do that. That's what... Oh, I was so annoyed.
Yeah. Again, like, you're playing with only adults. I mean, all you have to do is sit there and not do anything. I mean, all you have to do is sit there and shut up. I mean, and you flip over your cards when it's time to flip over your cards. It's super easy. And this is why there's so many conflicts at poker, is because people cannot just follow simple rules. Because there's not that many conflicts to be had if everybody's actually following the rules.
Yeah. Do you think that they could move him to the lower stakes table? Would that be the move?
No, I don't think
No,
anything
it's not
can be
the move.
done.
Yeah.
I mean, they could tell him just no, you can't play here, but you're just not getting. I mean, you could get that in Vegas if you're the Wynn, Aria, and Bellagio or something like that. But around Houston, where everybody's fighting for players, and especially a player who just stacked up, where nobody wants to see that money go away. I mean, you're risking pissing the player off and losing that as a player who might be a consistent player. And you're also risking pissing the table off because there's just less money on the table. So there's really nothing that can be done.
Yeah, that sums that up. Which is why I was so mad.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, when somebody does this and it's lack of control of the situation, I mean, you had every right to be mad here.
Oh boy, sounds like our security is on high alert. Well, I guess before we get taken out by the dog. So I guess today I'm actually going to try to go play 5-10, take a shot take today.
That's God, 510. That's pretty big even for what you've been playing lately. 510's pretty massive.
True. Yeah, so, I mean, there's a lot to consider. The buy-in, if the game is even going to make, I mean...
Or hell, if it becomes 510-20, I mean...
How to get off the table if it comes 510-20.
Yeah. If it becomes 510-20, 40, exactly what disease you're going to come down with? Is it going to be a stroke? Is it going to be what? So, yeah, I don't know. That's a pretty damn massive game.
Say it's going to be a disease where I can only play 1-3.
Yeah. Well, this is going to be super interesting. At least, so next podcast we can go over exactly what happens tonight on the 510 experiment.
Well, so here's where things get a little interesting. So today, I was walking around the poker room, and one of the hosts of the 5-5 game comes up. And he was like, "Oh, you need to come play Thursday." And I was like, "Sure." It's at 1, and I work the overnight, so that's gonna be kind of tough to make it that early.
You're a better man than me because there's zero chance of making that game if I worked the night before.
Yeah, but then this is Tuesday though. They're also trying to get this game going Tuesday, which doesn't have anything to do with that person. So I ended up putting my name on the list for Tuesday. Which is today. Well, which is going to be today because you guys are going to hear this Thursday.
Okay.
But so I put my name on the list for Tuesday, and then Wednesday I work, and then Thursday I'm supposed to play 5-5 during the day, then 5-10 at night. So we should have a ton to talk about, unless I go broke today, and then we have nothing to talk about.
Well, yeah, we have today's session.
Yeah, today's session, but not nearly as much during the week. But this could be a gigantic week. Oh, I mean, it's going to be at least content gigantic.
Yeah, well, that'd be awesome. I mean, it's either going to be a gigantic gigantic content podcast next week, or it's going to be a movie League of Legends podcast, something like that. I mean, when we're both broke and out of poker.
Yeah, either one. But I guess this concludes this week's of the Texas Poker Podcast. We'll talk to you next week.
That was the Texas Poker Podcast. Go ahead and rack up, add time, and we'll see you next week.